I've had it. Welcome back. This is episode 2 of a 5-part series about how I turned my life around. In episode 1, I discussed my rock bottom moments and what made me pack everything up and move 5,000 miles away to Hawaii, which is where I'm at right now. If you didn't see that episode, go check it out. It's linked in the description below. Let's get into it. When I hit my rock bottom, I thought it was over. I thought that was the end. But what I didn't realize is that was the beginning. It was a gift, not a curse. And that's the day I decided to really start prioritizing myself. And that was the hardest part, going from day 0 to day 1. That initial decision to really be ready to change, honestly, is the hardest part. And that's what this episode is about. Kind of those first steps I took after my rock bottom to start building a routine and a mindset that works. The first realization I had was simple, but it was a hard fact for me to accept. And that was the people you surround yourself with is the person you're going to become. There's that quote, you are the average of the 5 minds that you spend the most time with. And at 21 years old, I looked around and realized I was not surrounding myself with the right people. When I first moved here to Hawaii, I met some people and I started drinking and smoking, and I was like, look, these people, they're not trying to get sober. You know, they don't have big dreams or big goals that they wake up and they chase and that they're telling me about. You know, they're drinking and partying and they're living for the weekend. And I wasn't trying to do that anymore. So I had to take a hard look at my inner circle and who was closest to me. I remember one night pretty early on when I moved here to Hawaii. It was just a few months. And I met some guys at work and we like to drink. So I got pretty drunk and then we smoked. So I was pretty crossed. And I thought it was a good idea to drive home. Stupid. I know. I was only 5 minutes away. That doesn't justify it. Whatever. I drove home and I was stopped at a light. And my truck, you really have to press the brakes in for them to fully stop the truck. But I released the brakes a little bit and I was on my phone, so I wasn't paying attention. I was stopped at a light and then I rolled into the car in front of me. And I didn't even know. The guy literally had to I was still on my phone. He had to knock on the window and he was like, hey, you just rolled in front of me. I was like, what? And then I backed my truck up. He's like, are you drunk? I was like, yeah. And then he didn't call the cops. He just filed an insurance claim. And I literally lived, I was in front of my house. And I was like, I just get inside and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? I just got so lucky. I could have 100% gotten a DUI. And I probably should have, but I didn't. And I was like, my luck is going to run out. I'm done. I need to make a change. And that was one of the biggest moments. I was like, that was such a sad moment. I'm like, why did I do that? That's so dumb. And I was like, I'm changing. I'm done. And that's not necessarily the day everything ended. Since then, I've drank, I've smoked, I've popped pills. But that was the day everything began. I guess what I'm trying to say is that change doesn't start when you hit rock bottom. It changes when you decide that you're done living that way. That was the night I had to change the people I surrounded myself with. And that wasn't my first time doing that. You know, I had been doing that. When I moved here, I left behind a lot of old friends from high school that, weren't very good for me. And then I moved here and I started hanging out with the wrong people and I realized these people aren't right for me either. So I had to make that change again. Something that no one talks about is that this process is extremely lonely and it is really isolating. When you're trying to go from a different circle to creating a new circle with people that you want to be around and that are really good for you. But the thing is, when you're in that transition period, right, you're trying to surround yourself with better people, but you're not yet to where you need to be surrounded by better people. So it's kind of that transition period of where it's just you for a while and you're trying to be a better person and to get to where you need to be so you attract better people into your circle. But it was really lonely. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., I'd go to work, I'd just put in my headphones all day, I wouldn't really talk to anybody. I'd come home, I'd do whatever I needed to get done, and then I would go to bed. So I really was by myself for a pretty long period of time. And it got to the point where I started to kind of lose touch with reality. And it was pretty scary there for a while. And that was just, I kind of overstepped, right? I overcompensated and I was like, these people aren't good for me, so no one's good for me. So I kind of just started to hang out by myself. But I wasn't even keeping in touch with people back home. I wasn't reaching out to anybody. So it just got to the point where I was like losing touch with reality. And that obviously wasn't good either, but I do feel like it was necessary. It was a necessary part of my process because I got really, really good at being by myself, and that is so important. So after I made that decision to cut people out of my life and completely cut substances out, I went to the store and I bought a little whiteboard, and I started a tally system. So every day that I stayed clean, I would mark a little tally on the board. And I had done it before, I'd tried it before, I'd get 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, and I had to erase it when I fucked up. And to be honest, that was pretty often, when I had that system in place before, but this time was different. And I shit you not, I went 171 days. So I set that goal and I went 171 days. So I had 171 tally marks on that whiteboard. And I would look at the whiteboard every night, I'd put a tally and I'd be like, damn, that's a lot of tally marks. I do not want to fuck this up. And I did eventually. I went 171 days, no alcohol, no weed, no pills, no caffeine, no nicotine, no nothing. And then I took a trip with a couple of my buddies and we went to Tokyo and we were drinking a lot. We drank almost the whole trip, and I got back and I had to erase those tally marks. And it was really sad. I was like standing there and just like crying. There's tears running down my face, just so pissed at myself. And I was like I'm going back, I'm slipping back to my old ways. But the cool part about it was this time I got right back into my routine. I got back from my trip, next day, my buddies went wherever they were, and then I was by myself again, and I got right back into that routine. Waking up, going to work, and then doing whatever I needed to get done, and I stayed clean. So I just kept on, I restarted the tallies and I put the tally system back up and it worked. And I kind of set myself up for success with those 171 days. Because when I got back, I was like, hey, I can do this again. And it really reinforced that, I was building something. And I was getting good at it. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. It didn't feel good right away. Like when I started this whole process and kind of hit that rock bottom and then restarted and I started to build my life and build something I'm proud of, it didn't feel great. At the beginning, hell, even 171 days in, it didn't feel great. It was lonely the whole time. It was hard. It was really, really hard. And, I didn't have anyone else clapping for me, but more importantly, I wasn't even clapping for myself. I was just kind of going through the motions. And it was just a really hard, isolating time. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, the day you decide to make that change, life's just going to be, it's going to be easier, it's going to be better, it's going to be great, you're going to be happy. I was not happy. I wasn't happy at all. But I was starting to be proud of the man I was becoming. And that was huge. Because now looking back, 2 years later, for the most part, I am happy. I worked on myself and I started to surround myself with better people, and I put those goals in place and I work towards them every single day. So, when you first make that decision, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. I'm going to call it how it is. But what those first few months taught me was that progress is not immediate. It is not immediate at all. It's like you go to the gym and you work out every single day, and then 3 months later you look in the mirror and you're like, well, I look basically the same. And then 3 months and 1 week goes by and you're like, I see it. I see it. And that's that motivation to go in the next day. So it's not instant. It's just you see little progress at a time, and that's kind of your reward to keep going. And that's kind of when momentum starts to build and that snowball effect really comes into place, which is huge. So by cutting out the wrong people in my life and getting rid of substances completely, I still stumbled every now and then, right? I wasn't perfect, but it really gave me space to think and space to build something real. And it allowed me to implement new habits and a new lifestyle and kind of a new routine that I use to this day. And it changed my life forever. And that's what episode 3 is going to be all about. I'll see you there. Cut.